Hi viewers, welcome to our channel Dissection of Human Body. In this video we are going to discuss about the cavernous sinus. Cavernous sinus is one of the third venous sinuses present on either side of the body of the sphenoid bone, extending from the medial end of the superior orbital fissure in front to the apex of the petrous part of the temporal bone. And this sinus, like any other sinuses, it is present between the endosteal and meningeal layer of the dura mater, and it is lined internally by endothelium and is traversed by the trabeculae, which give a spongy appearance to the sinus. That is why it is called the cavernous sinus. The sinus has got various communications. Because of its communications with the extracranial veins, it is often infected with septic emboli. Now, what are the relations of the cavernous sinus? Superiorly, it is related to the base of the brain. This is the superior aspect. Now, I have dissected out the right side of the cavernous sinus. Here is the left cavernous sinus, and right side has been dissected. And above, it is related to the base of the brain. What are the parts which are present at the base of the brain which are related superiorly? You have the optic chiasma and optic tract, the terminal part of the internal carotid artery and anterior perforated substance. And the inferiorly, it is related to the foramen lacerum. Of course, the medially, it is related above to the pituitary gland or the hypophysis cerebri, and I have already scooped out the hypophysis cerebri. This is the one. I'll just take it out, the hypophysis cerebri, from its location, that is in the sella turcica. Now, the inferiorly, on the medial aspect, you have the sphenoidal air sinus, and I have made a hole in the floor of the hypophyseal fossa to show you the sphenoidal air sinus. My forceps is in the sphenoidal air sinus. So the medial relation of the cavernous sinus are superiorly the hypophysis cerebri, inferiorly is the sphenoidal air sinus. Now, the laterally, of course, you have the temporal lobe of the brain, especially the uncus part, and also the trigeminal ganglion present in the trigeminal cave is also lateral to the cavernous sinus. And what are the structures which are present in the lateral wall of the cavernous sinus? In the lateral wall, there are 4 nerves present in the lateral wall, namely from above downwards. You have this nerve is the oculomotor nerve, and below the oculomotor nerve, this tiny nerve is the trochlear nerve. Below the trochlea, you have the ophthalmic division of the trigeminal nerve. This is the ophthalmic division of the trigeminal nerve, and the inferior below that is the maxillary division of the trigeminal nerve. So these 4 nerves are found on the lateral wall of the cavernous sinus, which has been dissected out. And what are the structures present inside the cavernous sinus? You have the internal carotid artery, this part of the internal carotid artery. This internal carotid artery enters the cavernous sinus by passing through the foramen lacerum. Then in the cavernous sinus, it runs forwards, and then it turns upwards medial to the anterior clinoid process, which has been broken here, just to show you the internal carotid artery. This is the terminal part of the internal carotid artery. And here, below the base of the brain, it runs backwards and then turns up below the anterior perforated substance. It divides into its terminal branches, namely anterior cerebral and middle cerebral artery. So this characteristic bend as it traverses through the cavernous sinus is known as the carotid siphon, which serves as a landmark for the cerebral angiography. And the other structure which is present inside the cavernous sinus, apart from the internal carotid artery, is you have a nerve. Can you see a nerve over here, which lies on the inferolateral aspect of the internal carotid artery? This nerve is the abducent nerve, right? So inside you have the internal carotid artery and the abducent nerve. On the lateral wall, you have the oculomotor nerve on its way to the superior orbital fissure, which divides into a superior and inferior division. And below is the trochlear nerve, and then below is the ophthalmic division of the trigeminal nerve on its way to the orbit through the superior orbital fissure. Of course, in the anterior part of the cavernous sinus, it divides into its terminal branches, namely lacrimal, the frontal and nasociliary nerves. And below you can see the maxillary division of the trigeminal nerve. What are the tributaries of the cavernous sinus? The cavernous sinus receives tributaries from three areas. One is the orbit. It receives from the orbit. And you have the superior and inferior ophthalmic veins, which are tributaries of the cavernous sinus. So coming from the orbit is superior and inferior ophthalmic vein, and sometimes the central vein of the retina. Please remember that the superior ophthalmic vein, we know that it is connected to the angular vein, which continues as the facial vein at the medial angle of the eyeball, right? So this communication is very important, because extracranial source of infection can spread into the cavernous sinus through that communication. Now, and then from the bone and the meninges, there's a vein or a sinus runs along the lesser wing of the sphenoid bone. That is the sphenoparietal sinus, and also it receives the anterior division of the middle meningeal vein, which will also drain into the cavernous sinus. Now, from the brain also it receives some tributaries, namely the superficial vein found on the superficial aspect of the lateral sulcus of the brain. And also it receives some inferior cerebral veins. These are the tributaries of the cavernous sinus. Now let's see the communications of the cavernous sinus. I have made a model to show the communication in the skull bone. Now here you can see the right and left cavernous sinuses are there, placed on either side of the sphenoid bone, right? And it is connected to the transverse sinus. It is connected to the transverse sinus through the superior petrosal sinus. This is the superior petrosal sinus. Here is the superior petrosal. This is the superior petrosal sinus, which is running along the upper border of the petrous part of the temporal bone, along the attached margin of the tentorium cerebelli. And then it is also communicates with the internal jugular vein through the inferior petrosal sinus. This is the inferior petrosal sinus. And it is connected to the pterygoid venous plexus, which is found on the lateral pterygoid muscle in the infratemporal fossa, through emissary veins passing through foramen ovale, foramen lacerum, and sphenoidal emissary foramen. Right? And it is connected to opposite sinus through the intercavernous sinus. There are two in number. You have anterior intercavernous sinus and posterior intercavernous sinus. And also it is connected to the internal vertebral venous plexus through a plexus of veins over here. That is the basilar venous plexus, which is deep to this dura mater, right? And so the cavernous sinus has got many communications. These communications do not have valves, so blood is passing on either directions.
Hello viewers, now let us discuss the clinical anatomy related to cavernous sinus. For that, first let us see the venous drainage of face and scalp, which is intimately related to diseases of the cavernous sinus due to their deep connections. We all know that the supraorbital and supratrochlear veins unite to form the angular vein at the medial angle of the eye. This vein continues obliquely along the face, along with facial artery as the facial vein or the oblique facial vein. Meanwhile, the superficial temporal vein and maxillary vein unites to form the retromandibular vein within the substance of the parotid gland. The retromandibular vein divides into two divisions, an anterior division and a posterior division. The anterior division, as you can see, unites with the facial vein to form the common facial vein, which drains into the internal jugular vein in the carotid triangle of the anterior triangle of neck. The posterior auricular vein that runs from behind the auricle unites with the posterior division of the retromandibular vein to form the external jugular vein that pierces the deep cervical fascia and drains into the subclavian vein. So this we know is the venous drainage of the face and scalp. Now what is to note here is that this shaded region of the face that includes the lower part of the nose, the philtrum and the upper lip. This region is drained by some labial veins, that is the superior labial veins, that drains into the oblique facial vein. From this region, there is a deeper connection called as the deep facial vein. So the deep facial vein communicates with the facial vein, and it is communicated in turn at a deeper plane to the pterygoid venous plexus, which is present in the infratemporal fossa in close relation to the lateral pterygoid muscle. So the deep facial vein is a deep connection between the superficial vein, that is the facial vein, in the region that drains the lower part of the nose and the upper lips. It is connected deeply to the pterygoid venous plexus, which in turn is connected to the cavernous sinus through emissary veins that pass through the foramina present in the middle cranial fossa. So, if there is an infection in this shaded region, it could be an infected acne or it could be a trauma that gets infected. So, if this infection is not controlled early, what happens? These bacteria can spread into the cavernous sinus and can produce infection and thereby thrombosis of the cavernous sinus, which is a very dangerous consequence. So, this shaded area, which is a small triangular area present at the lower part of the nose and the upper lip, is called as the dangerous area of face because of its deep connection to cavernous sinus. The cavernous sinus also receives communication with the angular vein through the superior ophthalmic vein. So there are two communications for cavernous sinus to the facial vein, to the superficial part of the facial vein. That is through the superior ophthalmic vein with the angular vein, and then through the pterygoid venous plexus and deep facial vein, it communicates with the facial vein. So these are two routes of spread of infection to the cavernous sinus. So what is cavernous sinus thrombosis? As you can see in the picture on the left, it is a cross section of the cavernous sinuses of both the sides. You can see so many nerves related to the cavernous sinus, which you have already seen. So, any infection that spreads into the cavernous sinus results in the condition called as cavernous sinus thrombosis. So, it is actually a septic thrombosis that is due to infection. Why this happens is because of valveless veins. So infection can spread in multiple directions. So this is usually presented as severe pain in the eye. This is because of the ophthalmic division of the trigeminal nerve, which is related to the lateral wall of the cavernous sinus. There can also be what is called as ophthalmoplegia due to paralysis of the muscles of the eyeball, of the extraocular muscles, which are supplied by oculomotor trochlear and abducent nerves, which are present again in close relation to the cavernous sinus. What you have to remember here is that abducent nerve runs through the sinus, and so this is the first nerve that is usually affected when there is an infection in the cavernous sinus. So usually the patient will present with a lateral rectus paralysis because of involvement of the abducent nerve. Due to the backflow of infection and blood and thrombosis of the superior ophthalmic vein, there will be marked edema of the eyelids, exophthalmos, that is bulging of the eyeball outward because of the congestion of the ophthalmic veins. Easily, unilateral cavernous sinus thrombosis can become bilateral because again you can remember that the two cavernous sinuses are interconnected by intercavernous sinuses. So this is a medical emergency and it has to be managed quickly, otherwise we can lose the patient. So this is to revise once again. We have the two cavernous sinuses. This is a section through the cavernous sinus. You have the pituitary gland present in the hypophyseal fossa. This region will be related to the body of the sphenoid with the sphenoid air sinus. And within the cavernous sinus, you have the cavernous segment of the internal carotid artery. Related close to it is the abducent nerve. We have the four nerves lying in the lateral wall of the cavernous sinus. Now, since internal carotid artery is present very close to the base of the skull, if there is a trauma in the base of the skull, especially involving the cranial fossae, it can result in rupture of the cavernous segment of the internal carotid artery. So, a trauma that presents as base of skull fracture may injure the internal carotid artery. Otherwise, an iatrogenic reason, that is a surgery of the cavernous sinus, is done for some other purpose and it may injure the internal carotid artery within the cavernous sinus. And another reason is a beri-aneurysm rupture of the internal carotid artery within the cavernous sinus can result in rupture of the internal carotid artery. So what happens when the internal carotid artery is ruptured? It results in leaking of blood from the internal carotid artery to the cavernous sinus. So there is an arteriovenous communication happening and this condition is called as carotico-cavernous fistula. Due to excessive blood flowing out from the internal carotid artery into the cavernous sinus, it will result in pulsation of the cavernous sinus, which will then get transmitted along its tributaries and communications, especially the superior ophthalmic veins, which directly drains into the anterior aspect of the cavernous sinus, and it can result in pulsatile exophthalmos. We will see the eyeball pulsating out. It can also result in severe cases into chemosis, that is edema of the conjunctiva, and redness of the eye, episcleral congestion. This is all because of the obstruction or the backflow through the superior ophthalmic veins. So now let us see a small video of the pulsatile exophthalmos that is typically seen in a case of carotico-cavernous fistula. So you can see the eyeball pulsating forwards. Okay, so here the patient has presented only with pulsatile exophthalmos. And this is a surgical emergency because the internal carotid artery is leaking into the cavernous sinus. If it is a severe case of fistula, then it will present with all the features like chemosis, redness, and sometimes even nerve paralysis of nerves related to the sinus, especially lateral rectus paralysis. Thank you.